Yo, what's up, dudes? I have to look here. This is the camera. What's going on, guys? I was gonna write some shit, but then I got high. No, I'm only joking. I made a playlist for you guys to have a look at some videos, some interesting shit to keep your minds occupied while you're out there in the frontier, the brave, cold frontier. And I hope it's clear enough. My voice and everything. This laptop microphone isn't fucking great, but it should be alright. Is it recording? Yeah. Okay. So I thought I was gonna write something to kind of just be a little like almost like a disclaimer basically on some of these fucking videos, because some of them are like just just cool shit or whatever, but some of them are obviously very out there, that I'm always going on about the super out there stuff. And I know you guys know that I care a lot about some of these things and the potential like benefits. Really, that's the main fucking thing. It's not like I don't know, I guess some views and perspectives and the way some people chase like the truth and meaning and all this kind of stuff, it can be a bit like heavy and very like existential. And even just the word existential, the next fucking thing that pops into most people's head is dread, because just it's like not an easy thing to navigate. But that's a part of the reason why people that find different views and perspectives about these things that help them or whatever, they generally tend to be so fervent and passionate about defending it and trying to preach it. And like obviously a lot of the world and people and history has to do with that psychology. And it's for a very good reason, obviously, because it's something that's ubiquitous. We all go through these kind of things. Everybody wonders what the fuck is going on, and you guys are both extremely smart, and there is just no need for either of you to be stuck with like you know just like the wrong kind of questions that don't have positive results, and then ones mental kind of just like mental situations and conclusions that might even be subconscious and shit that just maybe don't don't promote as healthy of a or as positive and enjoyable of a fucking mental experience for yourself personally as it could, and that is why I want you guys to try and look at some of this stuff and try and get into it. I've tried to kind of structure it. I have the playlist here, so I'm going to go through it. I've tried to structure it like kind of in order of what is like most interesting and relevant, and there's a couple of them that are good, like watch one before the other kind of videos, just because they're not necessarily from the same people or connected in some ways, but just it's not maybe even necessarily exactly all the content of the video, but there's some things that just connect between these different things that reveal a lot. Like, I mean, the main point I want to make in this fucking disclaimer is that absolutely none of these videos, zero of them, has everything figured out, like, and is going to just very simply put forth something that like wraps it all up nicely and explains things or whatever. And I mean, I know a lot of the world, like a lot of things in the world are not like that, and there's no kind of clean cut explanation. I feel like most of the fucking most important things are kind of like that, which has its pros and cons, but a lot of things, especially in science, are very just like clear cut and almost like polished and finished with the way they are. And like, okay, part two of the disclaimer. There's no, even all the things in here, and I feel like one of the main things that makes it so that these videos are not fully getting the point or the message is that they fucking basically are trying to say that all the old ways of looking at stuff is just wrong and it needs to be abandoned and stuff. And I don't really believe that. There is too many smart, brilliant, amazing people who have been involved in the creation of these concepts and ideas that they're like, I mean, it would just be foolish to throw away all those ideas and concepts. So all the things that you already know and understand, especially on like a more intricate level that you both have ever researched and learned yourselves. I'm sure there's like things in history and science and random stuff that is, like, don't look at these other things as going against that stuff. It's really not. It's just trying to expand it. It's trying to broaden your uh, possible avenues of thought. It's trying to give you more options to figure shit out, because as much as some things seem to be figured out or whatever, there's a lot of questions. Stuff isn't figured out, and I feel like a theme that's going to reoccur throughout you guys looking at this stuff, and like, uh, uh, you know, anyone who is making really good quality content that's really trying to push humanity forward, I feel like has an obligation to admit that we fucking don't know a lot of stuff, and even just negligence of mentioning and giving a little bit of credence to that fact is like a part of the problem a lot of the time. And I have actually included some like rebuttals even to some of these videos from other people, and just, so you can have some back and forth. There's some of these channels have had some back and forth with each other, and they make videos talking about each other's videos, and occasionally there's actually like a bit of actual back and forth, so they get to answer each other's questions and point out each other's things a little bit, and you really can take a step back and have an objective view of both sides of the kind of argument. And what you'll see is that both sides have issues, and both sides have, you know, positive knowledge that they're bringing to the table. And we as the as the viewer, as the one who's able to just be and try to seek objective observance of these things, and come to our own conclusions. We're in a great position to be able to have all this information, and just being grateful for these amazing different perspectives and ideas, I feel like is the kind of uh like the fucking mojo that you need to just have a reason to actually have a look at these different views and ideas, because we're so lucky. You could be in a fucking country where different views on religions and anything else, and not adhering to an extremely strict social norm, as no matter how fucked up it is just the reality for like a lot of fucking people. So um and I mean, that's this point is aside from the life changing perspective in enhancement, and maybe that's not the right way to put it. Like I said before, it's broadening your potential avenues of thought, and that's just always a positive thing, as long as you keep or at least, as some of these videos will get into, developing your intention and sense of a goal is hugely important to this journey. And for me, it's been a fucking long journey to figure that out and make it more clear, but it's so simple, really. At the end of the day, we're trying to make a better world. We're trying to make happy lives for people, and obviously ourselves need to come not last in that thing, that journey, and that fucking difficult path that it is to figure out your own security and well-being in life. But you know once we achieve that, which we will, then we're still going to be in a world with a lot of problems that, even if we have everything we want, those things will make us uncomfortable. We're all empathetic, caring people that want to, or at least would take the opportunity to make a positive difference in the world. And I'm fucking telling you guys, expanding your mind with these different kinds of ideas, as strange and kind of out there as some of them may be, that is the way that we're going to make a positive difference. And like I said, the answers are not here in this playlist. A lot of some of the shit that they say is going to be like inaccurate from my view or whatever, from my discernment, and I'm very interested to see what kind of things you guys will discern as well. Some of the shit. Okay, I'm just gonna get into it so I can uh go over them individually. The first one is something I've sent to you guys both before, I think. I just wanted to add it here first, so it's easy for you guys to find or whatever all the time. It's that one where the guy's talking about the people when they're 25, and then he interviews them later, and it's the ones with the fucking goals. Doesn't matter what it is, but if you have a goal, then that's a huge indicator of how successful or not you're going to be in future in your endeavors and everything else. So it says listen to this every day in the title. You don't have to listen to it every day, but anytime you feel lost and that goal, whatever it is for yourself personally, becomes unclear, give it a listen and meditate about it. It's quite long, but it's kind of almost a little hypnotic in how it draws out the point that it's trying to make. And if you can just kind of remind yourself of the ideas that he goes through whenever you need to, it's going to be helpful. So I added that in there. Okay, the next one is from this guy, Formscapes. Now, I've showed you, I think, a few of these videos before. I'm not sure how many I've shown you from this guy, and it's a little bit wordy. It's a little wordy, okay, but you need to try and not get, excuse me, bogged down by these weird definitions and stuff. And a certain amount of it is just developing your own sense of what words you're using to describe the world and how that creates your perceptions and how you view reality. And that is the foundation for your experience. Obviously, there's things that happen in life, unexpected things that happen around you that you can't necessarily control, but what your actual experience of those things is going to be is essentially dictated by the psychological foundation that you come into each situation with to a certain degree. I mean, you could kind of say it's fully defined by that, the Buddhist view that all suffering is just attachment, and if you just don't have attachment, then there's no more suffering. I feel like it's a bit too primitive. It's a bit archaic. We can all just be Buddhists, and they've been doing it for a long time, and it has not solved all the problems that we face in this world. So I feel like the real answers, unfortunately, are a little bit more uh, comprehensive and in depth and relatable to actual suffering in a real explicit context than just it's all attachment or something so simple like that. Not to say that those ideas and mental practices don't have their place and a valuable role in mental personal development. Okay, I don't want to fucking drag this shit on too long. So the first video from Formscapes here is basically talking about. I feel like it's a nice bridging the gap between modern scientific understanding and perspective, and a lot of everybody from the outside would call this everybody would call it new age science or whatever you want to call it, but it's like new age science or something, and it's really trying to take a more mature and well researched and well spoken and well articulated and, like I said, comprehensive fucking approach to the problems with the modern scientific consensus and the historical, political, social, and other contextual reasons for that decline into something that's unsatisfactory. Essentially, is what the point is being made, is unsatisfactory to the questions and requirements of modern life. That because there is a lot, we put a lot of value on science, and I mean, it's like from a lot of perspectives, it's the thing that will be the difference between humanity's suffering and annihilation, or happiness and freedom in a lot of ways, science in its many forms. So the first video is called How Science Became Unscientific, and it's just talking about some of the historical institutional things that have occurred, and like how there's essentially a better way. There is a better way that will develop, and some of the major problems is not necessarily with the individual pieces of the current scientific established consensus, but it's just with the inability of it to be flexible, the inflexibility of those ideas, and how rigid and dogmatic those things have become. Okay, so that brings us to the next thing, which is called the Divergent Science Iceberg, Part One. Okay, and this one's kind of long as well. They're both a lot of these videos are kind of long, so take your time getting through it. You just have time, so I promise it's worth it. And obviously chill and watch shit. Fucking Invincible new season's coming on 6th of February, so we got to watch that fucking shit. Maybe we can like watch it together or something. If you call it'd be cool. But when you have the time, every couple of days or something, try and get through one of these fucking things, because I promise it's going to be interesting. But it's also important to like make it through all of them, basically, which is kind of annoying. I know some of them are super short and some of them are pretty long. The ones that are like full fucking audiobooks, don't worry about that, as much, obviously. But I'm gonna go through it now and I'll kind of point out which ones are the most important. So yeah, the next one is Divergent Science Iceberg, and that just goes a bit deeper than the first one about how science became unscientific, because that's kind of introductory, and it leads you into just kind of the premise of some of these ideas, fucking spitting all over the place. And the next one, the Divergent Science Iceberg, goes deeper and really there'll definitely be some things and topics here that you've heard of, and maybe you have an idea of what it is in your head. Hopefully, he'll be able to do a good job of explaining it clearly, just to redefine anything that's unclear or anything like that. And I guarantee there'll be many things here in this Divergent Science Iceberg that you haven't heard of before, and I really hope it's going to be interesting and inspiring for you guys to find out about some of these things. Many of them will probably be bollocks and like just like misunderstood and expressed in a way. I mean, so many of the things are coming from a foundation of modern scientific. Everybody's like raised to believe all these fucking things. So it's obviously it's inevitable that some weird misaligned theories that are just not quite hitting the mark would come out. I mean, they do all the time, and every now and again, some of them get a bit popular, So you might see some shit like that as well. But it's going to be interesting. Okay, so this next one is a response from this dude that you've seen before, Professor Dave. I feel like maybe you guys have watched this before, but fucking go over it again, because there's more to the story. It's like science isn't dogma, you're just stupid. Response to Formscapes. I think this is a response to the how science became unscientific video, and he's going through a few different points and stuff. And obviously he makes some good points. He's not a complete retard or anything, but he kind of misses the overall point. And like he got lots of views on this video, lots of likes, lots of comment, lots of activity on his channel. It's very popular to just debunk stuff. I mean, there's loads of channels that just are just like hating on each other, talking bullshit, and they're the most popular ones. And when it comes to the world of science, everybody kind of just jumped on the bandwagon of what was going to get the most views and not get them cancelled and ridiculed, basically. And I mean, that exists in the world of science regardless of YouTube. People don't want to get ridiculed and cancelled and not funded and not accepted into research and things like that. It's pretty rare. Sometimes they get people are older or bolder and they just don't give a fuck, and they'll come out and say some shit. I mean, people jeopardize their careers to say these out there things, and the worst part is sometimes they're still wrong and not quite getting it there, but sometimes they really have something important to say that's just not accepted in the modern world. And yeah, that's an ongoing back and forth, just like these fucking videos. And you can kind of tell, man, like I'm not trying to necessarily be biased or anything, but I mean, come on, like the thumbnail for this video is like ha ha ha, pointing at the Formscapes logo. What a moron. And people, like, it's just a thing of someone laughing, like, why you gotta be a dick about it? And you know like there's so many psychological kind of views, and psychologically you could really look at it like that's a tactic to essentially remove the need for an extremely strong argument. If you just ridicule it I mean, like, we've all seen that play out where someone who's completely wrong just wins by being a loudmouth, and everyone laughs, and it's just so unbelievably commonplace with the way people work and people think in the modern world today, that it's I'm not saying that there's no substance to his rebuttals, and some of these points are good. It's because Formscapes, as I don't know what the chap's actual name is, but as smart or, kind of different as his ideas may be, he obviously still doesn't have everything figured out, and there's going to be sometimes the ability to poke holes in things. But so right, that's the video. He goes on for a while about that, and then there's another video. Formscapes actually replies back with a kind of shorter video, and he's just essentially pointing out how, you know, just a response, like the, oh, you think I meant that, but this is what I really meant. Maybe I didn't clarify it clear enough, blah blah blah. And it's as respectful and mature as possible, which is what's extremely important now. And there's no ridiculing and no fucking name calling. You have to watch these 3 videos: the How Science Became Unscientific, and then the Divergent one is going deeper, which does help. I guarantee you Professor Dave didn't fucking watch this one or any of the other ones. I mean, the Formscapes guy has tons of videos, but like I said, it's very wordy, and uh, it can just be a lot, But if you're fucking into it, just go deeper, because there's so much. There's so many amazing new. It's not even about the newness of the ideas. Some of them are kind of old, but it's just being expressed and articulated in new and better ways all the time. It's really, there's been a lot of developments in the world of scientific understanding, although from some sides it doesn't seem like that. It's kind of like your man Veritasium, extremely intelligent man, like so much mathematical knowledge and all this cool stuff. And there's like a couple. There's one of his videos in here as well, actually, and uh, really amazing. And it's not that he's wrong or biased, or I know he has some videos about some of the stuff that that I would probably disagree with, but I can't think of any offhand. It's not that those things are wrong, or he's not got there's something bad about it. It's just there's more to it. There's always more. I mean, like, there's obviously always more to fucking learn and understand. Nobody has it all figured out, and that has an implication, psychological implication, that is so fucking liberating when it comes to what your purpose in life is. It becomes so clear that if there's so much more science and nature and everything to understand, then it's clear what our purpose is. And okay, I'm getting a bit fucking deep. Whatever about all that. Let's just let's just get through these fucking videos, because this is really going on. If you've watched it this far in one sitting, I really appreciate it. I fucking miss you guys. I miss you guys loads. I'd be cycling around like, oh, going past the Mare, like, oh. I fucking miss you. I really hope you're having an amazing time. And yeah, right, I'm gonna fucking get through this so it's forever. After the response to Professor Dave one we have here, it's like another Formscapes one, noetic aether theory, morphogenetics of matter. Now this is where it gets really fucking interesting, if you ask me. Some very cool theories and ideas about consciousness and matter that you just have not come up before in any literature or other kind of shit that I've looked into ever, and I've had these kind of ideas and tried to articulate and express them before, but he does a great job of making progress on that fucking track. Not perfect, not all the way, but it's progress, and it's worth checking out. It's fucking long as fuck, so I've been watching videos on YouTube at like 1.5 or 1.7 speed if they're a slow talker, and like just with subtitles as well, so you kind of can follow shit pretty well in case they say something fast already, and then it's like, but it's grand, man. Your videos are like 75% shorter, or no, wait, well, whatever, it's shorter. It doesn't take as long to watch the fucking videos, and it's better. So maybe with some of these things you can do that, although yeah, don't go too fast with the Formscapes, because there's a lot of shit already. That one is really interesting. The next one is from this guy. It took me fucking ages to find it because I couldn't remember his name. He has the most unmemorable name ever. But it's this dude I found many years ago talking about electromagnetism and electricity and how electronics and electricity kind of work at a fundamental level. And I really want you guys both, especially Damo, to have a look at this guy. To be honest with you, when I first found him, I was like, I'm not smart enough to fucking understand this. I don't know anything about electricity and magnetism really, like in a mathematical or a physics kind of sense, really, like other than a kind of a very, very crude understanding. And I look forward to coming back to his shit in future. And I kind of have seen some videos. He has some interesting ones. This one that I added here is talking about magnetism, and the guy is a little pretentious, right? And he seems like, I don't know, maybe he's bullshitting, not necessarily bullshitting, but I think he thinks he's really smart. He's like, yeah, I'm a genius, blah blah blah. I don't usually like that kind of thing, but at the same time, I feel like people do have an inner genius that can be unlocked. So when that happens randomly, sometimes to some fucking random cunt from Texas or wherever the fuck he's from, then if without the proper spiritual preparation to be ready for such a gift, arrogance naturally is just going to come and to his own demise, because I'm sure a lot of people don't take him seriously because of how arrogant he comes across sometimes. But he is talking about magnetism and like how people understand it and how it's different to that and how he can demonstrate it and stuff like that. Uh, and I just want you guys to have a look, and maybe you'll be able to call bullshit or fucking see something interesting from it, and it kind of applies to some of the other shit as well. Uh, that was in the playlist before that, so that's an interesting one. It's pretty short as well. Okay, then there's this other random one I just found recently, and it's kind of like it's a dude giving his kind of account, and he's like in a similar situation to you guys, kind of, except he was like living away from city life and stuff for quite a while, and it's just about how like I'm sure there's literally hundreds, if not thousands, of these fucking videos on YouTube of people who just start to question things and start to wonder like what's going on in the world and society and why it's so fucked up sometimes and all that kind of stuff. Uh, that that is one of the points of trying to develop ourselves and increase our understanding about all these things, is to answer these questions and to solve or at least make some progress with some of these problems and issues, because as all these videos that people will put up and countless more people are feeling this way, like if not fucking most people, is that something is really wrong, and something needs to happen and something needs to change. And so this is just a guy giving a little bit of an account of what it was like for him to go through that. And I didn't even watch the whole thing. I just want you guys to have a look and see what it's like and see if any of the kind of ideas resonate with you. Both of you guys are probably more well informed about some of the reasons why already than this guy, but it's just good to get a sense of what other people in the world are going through and what the zeitgeist is. I mean, we're all a part of it, you're a part of humanity. You're sharing the same world as this fucking guy and me and everybody else. And it's always good to know yourself and what everybody's going through. Right. The next one I put on the road, Jack Kerouac audiobook in here. This is fucking dope, but it is 9.5 hours. So I don't know if like, I'm sure you go on little hikes and that kind of stuff. If you ever are having like a solo fucking walk in the park or the woods for a while, don't get lost in the woods on mushrooms, please. But and it's not really the right thing to listen to on mushrooms anyway. But if you're ever going for a nice walk that's going to be a while, it's really, really fucking nice. It's a really, really chill story, and it's just so fucking interesting, man, how what's possible in traveling the world. And I know like the world is a bit different than it was in like the 40s and 50s that he's kind of talking about, but some parts of the world are kind of still like that. So that possibility for adventure is still kind of there. And nothing insanely fucked up or crazy happens. It's just a slice of what life can be like, if you just put your feet on the road, and you guys are already doing it. But it's a classic novel, and it's just gonna increase your knowledge about the world if you have a look at it and get through it. It's very good. The next one I have here is like this TED talk that's really fucking cool, and it's about learning languages. And it's like that kind of stuff we've talked about before about cortisol in the brain, like marking your neurons for neurogenesis. When you're stressed, you mark the cortisol marks the neurons that are firing at that time for replication, essentially, so that neural passageway strengthens when you're in a rest state, and your brain is growing or changing or whatever. And that kind of action can be utilized to help you remember things that you want to remember, like learning a language. And obviously it has lots of different applications, but this video about this guy's made here, it's just a short little TED talk. And the guy's pretty high fucking energy. It kind of seems like he's on coke or something, but nah, probably not. He's probably just like whatever. But he talks about how you can learn languages really fast, and it's a super cool video. So have a watch of that. The next one is this one from Thoughty2, the mustache fella, Frankie Muniz with a mustache, that channel, and it's like about renewable energy and how some of that industry is kind of bullshit. And I mean, it's just corrupted, I mean, it's no surprise. It's a huge industry, and whenever there's a huge industry in the modern time, at this moment in the world, corruption follows when that happens. And that it's no surprise that some of the things that have been what's known as greenwashed, like wind farms and all these kind of things, have such a high environmental cost when it comes to like toxic pollution mainly, and other types of negative impacts on the environment. It's like, obviously, plenty, like, even just like the concept of renewable energy obviously is not a scam. It's a good thing and we should do it, but it's just the way that it's played out in the fucking social, political, industrial context that we fucking have to exist in, and technology and everything else exists in that space. So that's the way it's going to be expressed. And there's a lot of things that maybe you necessarily wouldn't think about at first glance, or like it just seems like it has much more benefit than it does for the relative consequence environmentally or whatever. Um, so yeah, that one's worth checking out too. There's another documentary. I fucking didn't add it in yet, but I'm gonna add it in. It's a Michael Moore documentary. Now, I mean, Michael Moore can be a bit heavy-handed with his critique of these things, and I mean, it's a little bit fucking like doom and gloom or something. It's like, obviously everything's not all bad. Renewable energy, especially, like, it's still a good idea. We should still, like, I mean, some people look at these things and look at how, like, there's politicians and stuff that are really popular at the moment. I saw one guy talking about how the batteries, these cobalt batteries, are super, uh, like, immorally, what's the word I'm looking for? Unethically sourced and stuff, and it's really bad. And so we should just use gas and coal. And it's like, what the fuck are you talking about, man? Are you so whatever, about all that. I'm gonna add that Michael Moore documentary in here as well, because it just goes a bit more in depth into greenwashing and how intense it is fucking going on, mostly in the US, but the same kind of ideas apply in Europe too. All right, the next fucking one that's on here is a really cool one from my boy Kevin Flanagan, and it's kind of that guy from the Ancient Irish Anarchy video where he's talking about the Brehon Law, that fucking awesome video. So this is one where he's just like a guest on a podcast, and he's getting into more details about what life was like and some of the other aspects of the culture and uh, the traditions and customs of the people in ancient Ireland. Obviously, it varied quite a lot, but he gets a good overview, and then going into some more specifics that were, yeah, in some areas, and then some kind of points about how, yeah, like, obviously we don't need to just replicate the fucking old system, and they talk a little bit about how some of these ideas can be implemented in a modern context, which is interesting. Okay, now it's gonna get fucking heavy. We're nearly there. The Ted Gunderson video that I put in here. Ted Gunderson was a former FBI chief, and he went missing after basically exposing elite underground networks of nefarious activity at high levels. I'm not gonna say the words that I shouldn't say, but you know what I fucking mean. And you guys know what's up for the most part, but like this, if anyone is someone worth listening to about it, I mean, he's a fucking former FBI chief, for God's sake. Like, he's not just some fucking guy. If you ever needed somebody who's not just some guy to lay it out, this is the one. And he totally like went missing. His wife was looking for him and stuff. The first time I ever tried to show Dara a video about him, I put in his name, and the first thing that came up was his wife on a talk show saying that he went missing. I was like, oh fuck. And it was a while ago that he put this shit out and everything. So it's, it's a whole thing. Uh, that one you can kind of just maybe just watch it when you're in a very good mood and you're feeling very positive and you're ready for the fucking heavy duty shit, because that's what it is. Uh, but yeah, I believe it's important for, well, for the victims more than anything else. But you guys know what's up anyway. So the next one here is like a random video that I've had fucking saved for ages, and it's about the stars being filmed by Nikon P900, or yeah, P900. Some of those videos, I think I've shown you some before, they're a little blurry, they're a little shaky. You could totally say atmospheric distortion, blah blah blah, whatever. But this one that I found here is the best one I found, and some of them are extremely stable shots and very unusual things, like concentric circles, and one of them is like a fucking donut where it's like a ring of light, but it's got a perfectly circular hole in the middle of it. Maybe it's something else that's in front. Like we don't fucking know. That's the main point. But yeah, this is a good video. It's a few minutes and it's just going through some different shots that this person took. It's a Spanish channel that I found fucking ages ago. Uh, yeah, that one's cool. It kind of relates back to some of the other ideas. I'm not gonna put too much heavy duty stuff of that nature necessarily in this playlist. There's plenty of time for us to go down all those avenues, but it does relate back to some of the earlier stuff that's in here about science and magnetism and just fucking energetic expression in reality. Like there's a whole bunch of shit to think about and to develop the way we think about. So it's cool, and the way material world actually is manifest in front of us, be it like plants or ourselves, our own bodies, or stars or the sun. Everything is a part of that uh, model or whatever that we need to develop for ourselves, whatever. So the next one here is really cool, and I think I'm gonna change the order of these ones. Can I fucking drag this one down? Yeah, okay. So the next one is from this other channel that I follow, and some of their shit is super fucking out there, and like they're passionate about what the work they're doing, and sometimes they get a bit carried away, I think, with not necessarily dramatizing their views or evidence that they found or anything like that, but it's kind of when something actually is sensational, is it your fault that you are sensationalizing it? Like, it's kind of hard to say, but you just need to be so careful about that in this field, in this in this time for people. It needs to be a balance of fucking perfect poetry with scientific formulas to back it up. It's not easy to do that, and these channels are doing their best, and they've done an amazing job about just bringing some of these views and ideas and sometimes evidence and points and bits about history and kind of things like that just provoke deeper thought about what it could mean and stuff like that. So they are great. I do love them, but yeah, like I said, a grain of salt. Okay. This one's about microorganisms and fucking demons, and it's a super, super cool idea that I've kind of briefly mentioned to you guys before, I think, but this one kind of just lays it out. And again, some of it is, maybe you'll hear him say a couple of things that you're just like, what the fuck, that makes no sense. But the main idea of it is that, well, if you think about demonic possession, right, they're like invisible things that come into you and control your behavior. And then the idea is that microorganisms that we can't see, they're invisible, And if your fucking brain gets infected with some crazy shit and it makes you violent or whatever, I'm pretty sure like rabies and stuff is a fucking bacteria or whatever that gets into your shit and just makes you act out all crazy and stuff. It's so likely that instances of that in the past that were not understood properly um, could have resulted in people just writing it down like, yeah, demonic possession. I mean, like, they fucking chalked everything up to demonic possession back then. Stuck leeches on you to suck the bad blood out or whatever. Fucking crazy shit, which ironically worked sometimes because of the toxicity of the blood that would be caused by the parasites, or maybe it just actually gets the parasites out, like whatever, I don't even know. But it's a whole fucking thing. And this idea that, well, I guess the idea is that it can be a bit more complex than maybe we consider, because our brains are so fucking complex, and we already know from the fungi kingdom how complex microorganisms can be, and like how it just like in bizarrely complex ways they can affect the behavior of sentient beings, or living creatures. At least who knows if ants are sentient. By some metrics they seem to be, but uh you know so that's a whole thing, right? I mean, there's a relationship been drawn up now and measured between a parasite known as T. gondii that apparently many people have dormant in their brain, or just like at negligible levels that's not unsafe or whatever. We all know we have millions of microorganisms inside us, and apparently now levels of this T. gondii parasite that have been measured at very high levels in the brains of people with fucking schizophrenia and shit like that. So it's obviously a crazy thought to think that the voices that people hear could actually be from other like living creatures in their heads. And I mean, a lot of the time it's reported, I mean, we all kind of experience it sometimes. It's not just like a voice talking right to you. Sometimes it is, and I mean, maybe that's in some way generated by our own subconscious, in being influenced by these other organisms that tell us to be lazy, sit around, just eat fucking junk food, and whatever. Don't like don't build a healthy and resilient system that will be able to fucking flush these things out. Like, I mean, there's a little bit of precedent for an idea like that, I think. And then what's super cool is he talks about like, well, how they look, how demons are described in the Bible. A freaky monster with 10 mouths and 100 eyes, and it's gonna fucking rip you apart. If the microorganisms that are around were like giant, if you could see them, holy shit, they would be the most terrifying things you could ever see. And the reason that they're recorded in myth and legend as being invisible is because they fucking are invisible. You can't see them, they're too small. So that means they're invisible, microscopic, whatever. So that video from Mandan Vale is super cool, and as like to complement that, I've added in this really cool video of from an unrelated Insider Science. It's just award-winning footage of the microscopic world around us that shows the faces and arms and legs and eyes and crazy fucking forms of these microorganisms. There might even be some pictures and stuff that's shared between those two videos. I'm not actually sure, but it's a very, very, very interesting idea, especially when you continually relate it all back to the magnetic and scientific ideas about consciousness and stuff, to put it briefly, that we were looking at before. Okay. Next video here is a Rabindranath Tagore audiobook reading. It's pretty long, but it's the first like 30 minutes of it is fucking great. It's amazing. Talks about ideas about self-acceptance and perspective, and some really, really beautiful spiritual poetry about love and reality and how it's playing out. And it's a very, very good thing to check in on these kind of ideas, especially after going fucking deep into some of the other stuff. That if you guys go through this in order, uh, it's it gets pretty heavy. Fuck, I need to go to work soon. Uh, I better fucking get through this good. This Rabindranath Tagore shit is really good. Then we got a Richard Feynman thing in here, which is just like him going on about cool and interesting ideas for a while. It's quite fun. Um, and he has an amazing, really lyrical way of putting complex ideas. It's almost childish in a way, but it's quite fun, just the way his mind works, and it can be inspiring. I found it very inspiring. Next one again is kind of going deep and heavy. Psychiatry in the fucking military. If you ever had any confusion about whether psychiatric drugs were a positive or negative force in this world currently, this this documentary about how they are basically using the US military as a testing ground for these fucking drugs that sometimes have hideous side effects. That should answer some questions you have about that if you're unsure. Next one here is about biology and the cell structure, which is just going in detail with some animations about the ridiculous levels of complexity that exist inside your own body. And when it comes to psychedelic fucking ideas about uh, complexity and oneness and unity and the universe is inside you and all that kind of shit, having the actual animations to see that shit is pretty cool, I think. Next one is super awesome. Oh, fuck, I really get through this fast. This non-Euclidean worlds engine video. Now, I've talked to you guys about how the the first part is cool. It's just very basic. Then he gets to this part with the house. That's the most important part. That's the part I really want you guys to focus on. The rest of it is not as important, and it kind of gets really weird and confusing by the end, so don't even worry about that. But the part where he's talking about the house with more rooms in it than it seems to be possible is really cool, and that kind of idea can apply to this next video, which is the Veritasium video, and it's about this fucking equation that is super trippy, and it like applies to a lot of things in life, and it like the phi and the golden ratio and shit are included in this somehow. But then he also in this video applies it to the Mandelbrot set, which is fucking incredible. And that part where he shows how they're both following the same graph, just like in different dimensions or whatever, is insane. And then if you kind of think about that shit together with the non-Euclidean room world possibility in perspective or whatever, it's crazy. It's heavy duty. The next one here is a really short video of a guy just melting a piece of metal with a magnetic force, which is pretty cool. If you rotate a piece of metal in the magnetic field, it just heats up so hot that it fucking melts, and they don't really utilize that in stuff, as far as I know, as much as they could. I think I know they use that force in like engines and motors and stuff, but as far as I know, they're always trying to minimize that heat instead of using it to actually, you know what I mean, you could fucking generate with steam and stuff like that if you're just using magnetic field, whatever. I don't know. Like I said, you guys are smarter than me with some of these things, so I want you to have a look at them for that reason. Then we have a thing from Manly P. Hall. The rest of the stuff is pretty kind of spiritual, and it goes into ideas about the past and the origin, and not necessarily the direct origins, but kind of, and like the Druids. And I mean, like, you know, the history of Ireland is so unbelievably amazing. It's more amazing than anyone can imagine, and we're only at the very beginning of finding it out for ourselves, finding our true history. And the same goes for all of Europe and fucking Lithuania and and all that culture, and it's all related and part of a greater story that if we can find out more about, it will really help us figure out what's going on and where we're going and what's possible. So this one from Manly P. Hall is talking about how some of those early druidic and pagan cultures are more closely related than we think, and all types of other connections like that. Then we have the Kybalion in here. I've showed you guys this before. When it comes to trying to understand all the rest of this philosophy, the Kybalion is a very helpful key, and it can help you to just have like some of the other videos in here. It's good to check back in on from time to time when things just start to get blurry and don't make sense. You can really think about most of the concepts here contained with regard to the 7 Hermetic principles that are talked about in the Kybalion here. Sometimes it's a little bit hard to see exactly how things relate to it, but give it a chance. And you know, at the start of the book, it kind of goes through them and gives an explanation of what they mean, and then it kind of just goes deeper and deeper into their meanings and how it can be applied. So sometimes it's enough to just check back in and actually listen to the definitions of them again and stuff, and just be like, oh yeah, okay, I'm gonna think about it like that. But then, if it still kind of doesn't make sense, just listen to the rest of it, because it really tries to go there. The last two are I'm just going to leave them with no explanation, and we're going to have to discuss it ourselves. Uh, I want you guys to approach them with open mind, and like I was saying before at the start, the point of all this stuff is to improve things, improve your mental perception of the world and your ability to make positive decisions for yourself, and be sure about what you want to do with your life, which is a gift that most people never get to taste. And we're so unbelievably lucky to be in this world that I can literally share like what to me is at the absolute apex of collective human knowledge and achievement. I mean, with the exception of some more kind of artistic uh, things that I haven't really included in here. This is more science and mind based. If I started adding in media and art, it would be a never ending playlist. So I'm just going to keep it more simple than that. But I feel so unbelievably lucky that I can just make this list and share it with you, which really represents the culmination of a life's work, to be honest with you, in relating these different things together to each other, and extrapolating a worldview, and kind of like a gnosis, if you will, from some of these things. And like, even that sounds fucking arrogant, because the definitions are unclear, and knowledge and gnosis are still nestled within each other. So when someone claims gnosis, a deep inner knowing of some kind of truth or understanding, then it's like it's perceived by people as someone claiming to be above the apparent paradox of the ability to obtain and be sure about knowledge, normal knowledge, which from a from a normal scientific view of the world, you can't be ever really sure about your knowledge. That's one of the reasons why there needs to be a definition of the things that you can truly know from within. The true gnosis has to come from within. It's not going to be a piece of knowledge that's handed to you. That's knowledge, and it's fleeting and dynamic and changeable and built on the sands of time. But the gnosis that, I mean, it's personal for everyone. I can't say what the gnosis is. I can only express through my own individuality what that means for me, and through sharing these perspectives and just saying, look at this, look over here, look at that, and make up your own mind. That's the way it has to work. And I hope you guys can trust me that there's really something valuable to be gained at the end of these tunnels that I'm pointing and telling you to look down. So yeah, fuck me. Jesus Christ, it's nearly an hour long. Okay, I'm gonna have to find a way to send this video to you guys or whatever. But yeah, it's actually been super fun going through all this shit with you, for you, and yeah, I'll send you the playlist obviously, and talk to you fucking guys soon. Okay.